How's it going, guys? It's Javi here. Today is September 3rd, 2018, Labor Day. So today is Labor Day. I hope you guys are having a good Labor Day weekend, and I hope you guys enjoy at the beach or wherever you guys are. But unfortunately, if you're in the southeast, you might need to have some second plans for the beach, especially if you're in the Florida area, because we have potential Tropical Cyclone 7 that's just to the southwest of Miami at this point. It's a 30 mile per hour tropical cyclone moving to the west northwest at 15 miles per hour, and its central millibar pressure is at 1,012 millibars. So this basically has now a high chance of developing. Before, I think yesterday, it only had about a moderate chance of developing in the Gulf, but now it seems like the computer models are starting to agree that this is going to develop into some sort of tropical depression or tropical storm. And if you guys don't know what a potential tropical cyclone means, it's basically a tropical disturbance that's not yet considered a tropical cyclone, but it could bring tropical storm force or even hurricane conditions within the next 48 hours. And obviously with this tropical cyclone, it won't really bring hurricane conditions since it's too weak, but it still could bring potentially tropical storm force conditions. So I'm going to show you the IR loop of this potential tropical cyclone 7. And you could see it's bearing down on the Bahamas right now and probably bearing down on NASA right now, or NASA. I apologize if I can't pronounce it right, but it's basically bearing down on one of the biggest islands in the Bahamas, and it's just to the southeast of Miami, and it could potentially bring some heavy downpour and more enhanced thunderstorms in Miami than you'll usually see on an average summer day. So if you're headed to the beach in Miami or within the proximity of Miami, then you might need to have some second plans for that, because there's going to be a lot of thunderstorms and more enhanced thunder showers with this potential tropical cyclone. And you could see it looks very disorganized. It barely looks like a tropical disturbance. You could even, if I showed you this without telling you anything about this or telling you about any of its potential impacts or potential growth of this storm, you can easily misconstrue it as basically regular everyday thunderstorm you would see during the summer. So this is how this organizes. Really looks no real rotation or anything like that, no real center of circulation or really any thunderstorms to the west side, which shows that this storm isn't particularly strong, but that could potentially change as we head later into the work week as the storm heads into the Gulf. So I'm going to click on the track right now for this potential tropical cyclone, and you can see that it's expected to strengthen into a tropical storm, most likely on the Monday time frame, and then continue to stay as a tropical storm Tuesday, and then make landfall near the Louisiana area or to Mississippi, or I wouldn't even count out Alabama from this situation, or even the western parts of Louisiana, because we know that cone of uncertainty only is correct about 2/3 of the time. So that 1/3 of the time could head to Texas or at least the panhandle of Florida. We don't know, but it's most likely gonna stay within the cone. 2/3 of the time it stays within the cone. So Louisiana and Mississippi especially need to be watching this, as there are tropical storm watches issued for those areas for potential tropical storm force conditions heading into midweek this week. So keep that in mind if you live around the southeast, because expect gusty winds possible, enhanced threat of rip currents, and also heavier downpour and possibly some flooding if this storm really gets its act together. Right now, about 3 to 5 inches expected in the New Orleans area and in the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and possibly Alabama. But that's about it from this storm. I don't expect major impacts, and it's it's expected to stay at, I would say at worst, this would be a strong tropical storm. 70 miles per hour is definitely possible, but what's going to be the key factor of how much the storm strengthens is the wind shear. So I'm going to show you a definitive wind shear map that's going to represent the wind shear. You can see the yellows, the dark reds represent stronger wind shear, which represents more unfavorable conditions for wind shear. And I just want you to keep an eye right around Florida and where I'm pointing that mouse. You can see that Florida most of the time is in the yellow and oranges, and that's going to be extremely difficult to forecast because we don't know. It's very difficult to predict how strong wind shear will be and how that'll affect the strength of this storm, because the GFS model is taking a much weaker storm than the European model. Almost basically it's expecting it not to really strengthen much of a tropical storm even. So I'm going to show you the map of this so you can see that there's a fourth, a fifth, and then the GFS predicts a landfall in the fifth as a 110 millibar pressure storm. And you can see, let me show you the current strength of potential tropical cyclone 7, and you can see that the millibar pressure is at 10-12. So the GFS doesn't really expect it to strengthen much at all and stay 30-35 miles per hour due to this questioning wind shear that's going to be over Florida as tropical cyclone 7 moves more towards the north. And as for European, it takes a more potent storm. Oh wait, I just showed you the European, but yeah, the European is also taking a much weaker storm than originally expected. So is the GFS. The GFS is taking so much of a weaker storm where it's not even visible to see the icon of the L, which represents lower pressure. So it doesn't even represent that there's a low pressure there, which shows that the GFS is betting on this storm to be very, very weak. And for Louisiana, just keep in mind that of heavy rain, gusty winds, rip currents, and I don't expect much more than that. But anyways, I'm gonna switch my focus to tropical storm Florence, which is basically roaming on its own in the Atlantic. And originally, tropical storm Florence was originally gonna expected to move up to the north, not really affect any land relatively quickly. But now the forecast trends have been shifting more towards the west, which does pose a little bit more of a worry towards the Bahamas and the United States ahead, because I just saw the European model and it takes a pretty strong hurricane, category 3 strength I'm talking about, fairly close to the North Carolina coast. So yeah, right there you see September 12, 2018, a 955 millibar pressure storm just off the coast of North Carolina. But since that's 9 days away, like I always say, it's almost an educated guess if the forecast is, or a guess if the forecast is 7 days beyond the future. So don't take that seriously, North Carolina, obviously. But what's my worry is that over the next 5 days, it's expected to take a consistent track to the northwest, and after that, there's this huge uncertainty where this storm could go, because the GFS is taking this storm to take a northward track relatively more quickly than the European in the future, due to a weakness between these two high pressures, and it all depends on this ridge. If this ridge comes in strong and quickly, then the forecast would shift more towards the west. But if this ridge kind of stays weaker and stays far enough from the northeast or the Atlantic, then there should be enough of a weakness where this low pressure system could move to the north relatively quickly. So let me see how much time I have left. Okay, thank you guys for watching. I didn't get enough time. I need to start doing more than 10 minutes, but thank you guys for watching and have a great day.